How to train an adult dog. It is important to train your dog, whether small or large, young or old. Besides helping it behave better, training a dog will improve its relationship with you. In addition, training a dog what it can and cannot do, and to always respond to your commands, ensures its safety. For example, it could save your dog from being hit by a car if it ever escapes or gets lost. Method 1. Preparing to train your dog. Get some treats that your dog likes. Take small pieces so that you can give it one for each thing it does without worrying about your dog getting fat. Some dogs, especially Labradors and Beagles, are extremely food-orientated, and so you can set aside a portion of their daily kibble into a treat pouch, and use this to reward them. Choose an environment with few distractions, such as your backyard. Don't have toys out unless they are for training. You want the dog to listen to you, rather than watching other dogs having fun in the park. During the early stages of training, when you aren't sure of your dog's response, keep your dog on a leash. This saves unnecessary shouting to get its attention if it starts to wander off. Instead, just gently reel your dog in. Once your dog has learned basic commands like sit, stay, and heel, then you can continue lessons with distractions. Indeed, this is beneficial because it helps him understand you expect to react under all circumstances, rather than just in the yard. Keep training sessions relatively short to begin with. A typical training program involves 2 daily sessions of 10 to 20 minutes each. Also reinforce commands by asking the dog to sit before meals, or stay when you go to get his or her lead. Different dogs have different attention spans, just as human personalities differ, so do dogs. However, some breeds are more trainable, meaning they have strong powers of concentration. These include German Shepherd dogs, Border Collies, Labradors, and dogs that were originally bred as hunting dogs. Be realistic about the speed of progress. Yes, you can teach an old dog new tricks, but it takes longer. Don't expect him to pick things up as quickly as a young puppy within their socialization period. However, do not be discouraged if progress is slow. Stay focused and be patient with your dog and yourself as you train it. Method 2. Deciding what type of training you want to use. Use reward-based training methods. Some training methods advocate out-and-out dominance of the dog, and whilst it's good to be a leader to your dog, it should be based on encouragement rather than harsh correction. Think of your dog as a junior family member who needs to live by the house rules for everyone's benefit. Reward-based training works on the principle of rewarding good behaviors so that the dog wants to repeat them in order to get a treat, whilst bad behavior is ignored, so the dog gets not benefit from it and the behavior eventually stops as a result. Learn how to use clicker training, as it is an excellent method for training dogs. This is covered in depth at How to Clicker Train Your Dog. The principle is to teach the dog to associate the click-clack of the clicker with a reward or treat. Then you give a cue word and use the clicker to mark the exact moment a desired behavior takes place, and then reward. The advantage of using the clicker is that it's a down payment on a treat, and so can exactly mark the desired behavior in a way that's difficult to do otherwise. Never use a choke chain. They're cruel, and not only will your dog probably not like you very much, the choke chain could do irreparable damage to your dog's neck. In fact, dogs have died as a result of wearing choke chains. A choke chain, prong collar, or electric collar represent lazy or shoddy training. They rely on fear of pain to subdue a dog and make it fearful, rather than encourage it to choose the correct behavior upon request. Never use a choke chain. They're cruel, and not only will your dog probably not like you very much, the choke chain could do irreparable damage to your dog's neck. In fact, dogs have died as a result of wearing choke chains. A choke chain, prong collar, or electric collar represent lazy or shoddy training. They rely on fear of pain to subdue a dog and make it fearful, rather than encourage it to choose the correct behavior upon request. Do not shout at or hit your dog. Be aware that scolding a dog rarely has a place in dog training. Dogs live in the present, and if you scold a dog, it just links the negativity to you, and becomes wary of you, rather than learning a lesson, which can damage your relationship. On occasions when you are present and wish to correct behavior, such as the dog on the sofa, use a disapproving facial expression and a disapproving noise, to show you are not happy, but punishing by shouting or physical violence achieves nothing other than to damage your bond. Aggression often incites a fear response in dogs, not a true trained response. If you hit a dog too much or too harshly, he or she can become nervous of hands approaching it. So when a child goes to stroke the dog, all the dog sees is the same hand that hit it approaching. He or she is scared and thinks, is this person going to hit me today? So the dog bites out of fear. Dog training is not about today, it's about tomorrow. You don't need behavior to start or stop right this very instance as much as you need it to continue or end completely in the future. Method 3. Teaching basic commands. Start by training your dog to sit. Building a solid sit command places you in control of a whole variety of situations. For example, if your dog hears the doorbell and rushes to bark, you can interrupt this behavior by asking it to sit, then rewarding the sit, and removing the dog to a back room where it won't bark. To teach sit, show the dog you have a treat in your hand. Show it the treat at nose level, then arc the treat up above its nose. Say, sit. Your dog's head will follow the treat, leading their head to go up and its bottom to go down. The moment their bottom hits the ground, click-clack the clicker and give it a reward. Once your dog is doing this regularly, start to skip the treat. This builds unpredictability in the dog's mind about whether he or she gets a reward or not and stops it taking them for granted. This means the dog works harder. Eventually, just reward every fourth or fifth command. Once your dog is sitting regularly on command, ask him or her to do this when out and about, before putting its food down, and at the curbside before crossing a street. Teach your dog to stay on command. Stay is taught in a similar way to sit. Get the dog in a sit first, then take one step away. Say, stay, and when the dog doesn't move, click-clack and reward, plus give it lots of fuss. Gradually increase the distance, until you are eventually able to leave the room without the dog moving. Teach recall. To teach recall, start in a small space, so the dog is never terribly far away. When it turns and takes a step towards you, give a cue, here. As the dog continues moving toward your click-clack, and when it arrives, give him or her a big fuss and a treat. Keep repeating this, until the dog understands what you want it to do. Tell it to come whenever you feed it or under any other circumstance that it will come to you regardless. Make coming to you a good thing for your dog. Be excited, and reward often. Start with short, distances and be sure to release the dog quickly to go to what it was doing. Recall is commonly the cause of much confusion for dog and owner alike. The problem is that it's human nature to reprimand the dog when it eventually comes to you after 30 minutes of calling it. This teaches the dog that when it comes, you get cross, and therefore the dog would really rather not come back at all. Telling the dog off gives him or her conflicting instructions. Instead, no matter how long it takes, always be pleased to see your pet and make a big fuss of him or her. 10. Once the dog has mastered the command in a small room, try it in the yard. A word of warning though, unless you are completely confident of your dog's recall, don't let him or her off leash in the park. Keep the dog on a long line so that you can reel it in if it doesn't obey. Train your dog to go to the bathroom outside. If the dog is poorly house trained, then go back to basics and retrain in the same way you would teach a puppy. Give the dog plenty of exercise, and then back home keep him confined to a small room or a crate. Teach him to love the crate. How to crate train your puppy. Take him outside every hour, and when he squats or relieves himself, say the cue word, potty, or toilet, and when he's finished give him a big reward. Also do this first thing in the morning and last thing at night. Eventually he will realize it's a super easy way to get a treat, is to spend his bladder and bowel contents in a particular place in order to earn a treat. If he does have an accident indoors, don't scold him or tell him off. Instead, calmly clear it up using an enzymatic clear, so there are no scent clues left for him to return to the spot. Avoid using household cleaners, especially those containing bleach, since ammonia is part of urine and you can unwittingly reinforce the smell. Teach your dog to leave items alone. To teach the dog to drop it, start with something the dog may pick up, but that isn't his or her all-time favorite toy. Let the dog pick the object up, then offer it the ultra-tasty treat in return. Your pooch has to drop the object to get the treat, so as its jaw relaxes its grip say, drop it. Click as the dog drops the toy and give it the treat. Keep repeating this as with other commands. Once trained, if you come across something that you do not want your dog to eat and it seems interested, tell the dog to leave it alone. Praise it when it switches its attention towards you. While training the dog, remove temptation from his or her path. However, if the dog does pick something up, especially if it could potentially harm it if swallowed, Then push on its cheeks near the back of the jawbone and praise it for dropping it. Again, never use force to pry a dog's mouth open to retrieve something unless it's dangerous, like medicine of something sharp. Teach your dog to stay off furniture. If your dog climbs on furniture or jumps on you without permission, tell it to get off in a scolding manner and praise it when it does. If necessary, shove it off the furniture. If it jumps on you without permission, make a disapproving noise and move your knee forward to bump it. Keeping a lead attached in the house is also a good way of removing the dog, but without getting in danger if he is inclined to snap when removed from furniture. Limit the verbal interaction until the dog is down. Teach your dog to stay off of people, even when it is excited to see someone. To teach a dog to get down, use treats and a command, such as, off. If this doesn't help, use a canister of compressed air that has a motion trigger, in front of the furniture, so the dog gets a remote punishment when he goes to jump up.